have a question. I've been wondering. I'm curious. Are you afraid to ask questions? Well, you wouldn't be the first. Generally speaking, I enjoyed silently existing in my classrooms until my senior year of high school. Why? Good question. That's the year I decided to actively engage in at least some of my classes. Now, decided is kind of a strong word. I think I just became interested and kind of decided subconsciously. But the thing that I learned is how much engaging can actually change your experience in the classroom. Deciding to engage in your classroom through asking questions or the discussions that you have can actually motivate you to learn and be creative more in the classroom, to get more from it, to think critically, and to inform teachers about where you're at so they actually see you for where you're at and can help you. Something else looking back that I think kind of helped me begin connecting with what was going on in my classroom more was I became more confident and decided, again, maybe subconsciously, to care a little bit less what my peers thought of me. So, of course, I'm going to take that experience that I had and encourage you to try. I know it's hard to try to care less about what your peers are thinking of you when you're interacting in the classroom. And that is a hard ask, especially from young people. So I totally get it if it's a journey for you. But you are going to remember your experiences and what you took from the free education you're going to be given. Your peers are not. Also, consider this that people are quiet in class often for many reasons, three of which I can think of. One, they don't understand something that's happening. They're as confused as you are. Two, they don't want attention. Or three, they're concerned about judgment, just like you. Believe it or not, teachers who care want you to ask questions. So, here are some considerate ways to ask the parents, coaches, teachers in your life the questions that you need to ask. Think about timing. That is one big thing. If sometimes people seem irritated when you're asking questions, it may not be about the questions or the fact that you're asking a question. It could be, depending on who it is, about the timing or the manner in which you're trying to get these answers. So here's my little game. Is it a good time? Between classes? No. Send an email later tonight? Yes. When they're visibly stressed? No. During office hours or tutoring? Yes. Slip them a note quietly. Probably. Ask. Okay, now moving on to tips. In case you get stuck or confused right in the middle of a class, maybe you can't ask the teacher a question right then for some reason. Here are two tips for you. Tip number one. Now, this one is under the assumption that you have a notebook or piece of paper next to you. If not, maybe start doing this, okay? When you get confused, the minute you get confused, write down the last thing you remember, where you got confused, if you remember that. If not, at least write down like the last memorable thing you remember being said. So you have that note there where you can ask and pick up where you left off and figure out like where the confusion happened when you're talking about it with, in this case, it would be a teacher. Now, this might seem kind of silly to you upon first hearing it, but honestly, I take notes when I am listening to things, like even online when I'm kind of learning something or interested in something, just because it helps me literally remember the material. Sometimes just listening isn't enough. So sometimes I would have students that would be like, oh no, I don't need to write notes, I'll remember it. Different students say this for varying reasons, but this is why it's important to take notes or at least engage with like what you're confused about if you're having a lot of confusion in a class. Tip number 2, do this the first time you get confused. The first time. The reason I say this is as someone who really struggled with math, and I think it goes back to a time when I just kind of let it go for too long, not understanding it, just assuming I would never get it, and then just letting that pile on. Because most subjects kind of build upon each other. So if you completely just tune out one day and it's an important day for listening, you don't make any effort to make that up or catch up with the material, that's when you can run into trouble. So the first time you're in class, you miss something that's, important. There's a lecture, there's notes, whatever it may be that your teacher has indicated is important. You need to write something down, try to figure it out, so that you don't just continue to pile on the confusion. One big thing I want to say, because I see this in students and I saw it in myself, this sense of shame in questions and speaking to those questions. There is no shame in questions. Generally speaking, if someone makes you feel shame or embarrassed or ignored for bravely asking a question, there are things you can do about that, because that's not cool. By the way, I want to add, I'm meaning for genuine questions. I sometimes had students ask me things just to kind of joke around with me or be silly. I'm talking about genuine questions and calls for help. Here's a few ways to respond if that occurs. Is there a better time that I can get help with this question? 2, I genuinely need help. What can we do? Get the help you need. You can let people know that you're serious. When you ask someone a question, they might indicate that they don't have time. Maybe they have to gather their thoughts. Maybe they're not sure. Maybe they have a lot to do in the moment. That is different than making you feel silly or just completely ignoring your request for help. Now, I know that I'm encouraging a skill that is difficult for young people. It's even difficult for some adults. And I'm not about to be acting like I always do these things perfectly whenever I need to. But the point is, it's your free education and you need to advocate for yourself. That doesn't mean going and, being rude to people and judging them and assuming they're not giving you enough. Like, I think we all know that educators in any form are, they're giving a lot, maybe possibly overwhelmed. But our job as students is to participate in the process and get what we need and respectfully, engage in the free education we're being given. Because even if school is not perfect, you may not like certain things about it. It is important to get your education for you and the people around you. So to recap, can asking questions make life easier? Yes, because asking questions and general engagement causes your brain to actively, creatively think critically and pay attention. Learning in school is supposed to be for you and collaborative, meaning your involvement matters. You aren't going to learn as much if you're not engaged in the process. And collaboration, by definition is, working together. So who are you supposed to be working together with? Your teachers, your peers. And, ideally, all of those people are talking with each other, asking each other questions, and engaging in the process to really get the most out of it. This isn't all on your shoulders, but it's good to ask ourselves, what can I do in the process? You won't be ignoring your confusion. You'll tackle it and grow as a student and as a human.